Namaskar and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonkar. The agenda of today's discussion is connected to international relations. However, we are not going to discuss any bilateral relations here. Instead, we are going to focus on a concept called as prisoner's dilemma. Why are we discussing this? Because recently, India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh mentioned about prisoner's dilemma when he was addressing the Goa Maritime Conclave. So we'll understand what the concept is. But I would say this is a much broader discussion. We are going to focus in general on understanding game theory. We'll talk about game theory and we'll specifically focus on two games. One is the chicken game and the second one is prisoner's dilemma, and we'll understand this thoroughly in international politics through an example as well. That is going to be the complete agenda. It's a very important discussion from exam perspective. Questions can come up on what is game theory, what are its applications, or standalone questions can come on chicken game, prisoner's dilemma, etc. So to get to know all this information, stay with me till the very end. All right, let's begin. First things first, as I told you, this is a general discussion about what is game theory. Now, game theory is a theoretical framework which is mostly connected with mathematics, or I can say it's a discipline of science which helps us in understanding how different players or different actors behave when we put them in different situations. You can see here it's a theoretical framework for conceiving social situations among competing players. When I eliminate this word players and put competing nations, I get specific application for international politics. Now, game theory has different games and different analysis. It also deals with decision analysis. You do know. So different games like say non-cooperative games, cooperative games. You can talk about zero-sum games, non-zero-sum games. Different games are found where theoretical framework is developed to explain how players behave when we put them in different situations. But two very important games from game theory which have broad application in international politics are chicken game and prisoner's dilemma. We are going to talk about these two specifically. Let's first understand about chicken game. Now, chicken game, it's also called as the game of brinkmanship. The term chicken game, it has got its name, say from 1950s United States of America, during which the college kids or college students, they used to compete. They take their race cars or they take their cars and drive in opposite direction and see who chickens out. So chicken game basically translates to chickening out. Who chickens out first? The game is quite simple, where one player, now this is a caricature of, I would say, Indian leader and erstwhile Pakistan leader. So a caricature on a lighter note. So one player is driving his car in one direction. He's driving straight. Another player is driving exactly in the opposite direction and in a straight line. Now you do understand, one of them has to swerve or both of them have to change the direction. If they do not change the direction, then what will happen? They are going to collide. That means damage for both. Chicken game or brinkmanship, it decides which player is going to swerve or which player is going to change the direction first. Although the best case scenario is both the players change the direction. It's a win-win situation for both. This is the matrix of chicken game, where player A, player B. Now, this is a two-player game where you see two players both coming in one direction. If both of them, they change the direction, it's like a win-win or a tie situation. This is called as Nash equilibrium, where this is like a safe situation for both the parties. All right. Now, if one is coming straight and the other one is swerving, then the one who swerves first is bound to lose. You know why? Because if two people are coming in opposite direction and imagine they're coming at 100 kilometers per hour, and this guy does not change the direction. This guy changes the direction. When he changes or takes a turn, he's bound to go off road. Then there is going to be some damage. So whoever swerves first, there will be some loss, and whoever goes straight, whoever shows that will or I would say or determination not to take a swerve, they probably win. But in this situation, someone is going to lose. And if someone is going to lose, then probably there is some sort of retaliation, right? The worst case scenario is both of them, they do not change direction and they crash eventually. Now, this matrix or this game can be used to explain how international players behave. I'll give you an example later on, but this is the chicken game. I hope you have understood what is this. Quite simple. There is another concept called as prisoner's dilemma, more or less, I would say, a little connected as well. Prisoner's dilemma, it's a paradox in which the decision analysis is based where two individuals are taking decisions which impact one another. Now, this is the matrix for prisoner's dilemma. Let me explain you what is prisoner's dilemma. This is very important for us. Imagine police have apprehended two convicts or two alleged convicts. Police have apprehended two people, and they have circumstantial evidence that both of them have colluded together and they have robbed a bank. Imagine. So police have captured them and circumstantial evidence is there. Now, based on that evidence, possibly both the convicts can get punishment of maximum 1 year. But police take these two prisoners in two separate investigation rooms. They tell, if you do not confess, we have evidence and you will go to jail for 1 year. But if you confess and give me evidence against another party, then you will go free, but that person will get a jail term of, say, 20 years. Right? That is the situation. And these two players, again, non-cooperative players, separate. They do not know what A will do. A does not know what B will do, or B does not know what A will do. The police have given them this information. What would the players do in such a scenario? This is the matrix classically, the prisoner's dilemma matrix. There is prisoner A, there is prisoner B. There is an option given. If prisoner A confesses and prisoner B does not confess, that means prisoner A is giving all the evidence against B, but B has remained silent. In that case, A is going to go free, but B will get a jail of 20 years. The same scenario here, A has remained silent, he is not confessing, but B has confessed. B has betrayed A, and B will go free, A will get 20 years jail. Now, if both of them are loyal to each other, if there is a lot of, say, trust between both the players, both of them, they remain silent. And there is the best case scenario that, okay, you tried to rob a bank, you are caught now, you will go at least for 1 year to the jail. That's the best case scenario. Go to jail, enjoy 1 year's jail and come back. Right? That's the scenario. But in case both of them confess, now if A confesses and gives evidence against B, B confesses, gives evidence against A. That is the worst case scenario where both of them, they are going to jail for 5 years, because now police have evidence against both the parties. Now imagine the same scenario, and instead of these prisoners, keep nations here and understand the decision making. Now, if you're finding it tough to visualize this, so this chicken game and this prisoner's dilemma, I understood the concept, what you told, but I want to understand it further, how they are relevant at the international level, at the international politics. Now, let's take an example here. Let's take a very prominent example of Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, you do know what is Cuban Missile Crisis. In 1962, at the peak of Cold War, one of the biggest crises occurred between USA and USSR. Now, what was the crisis? USSR had planted, or USSR had made Cuba as its base, and they had installed ballistic missile sites. USA came to know about this, and then the Cuban Missile Crisis occurred. What happened? It happened in October 1962. Now, we all talk about Cuban Missile Crisis as a standalone event, but this was to some extent one of the contributors for, I would say, India's defeat at the hands of China in 1962 as well, because the entire world focus was on Cuban Missile Crisis, and on one corner of the world, China and India were fighting a war as well, right? So what happened here? Again, that was an extra information for you. What happened in Cuban Missile Crisis? In October, to be precise, on October 14, what US did was, what they routinely do, they spy. They were surveilling. So one US spy plane, it took photos from Cuba, and they saw that there are ballistic missile sites here. Ballistic missile sites means Cuba is very close to USA. From here, USSR can attack major cities of USA. So USA thought this is very serious issue now. So at that time, president was JFK, John F. Kennedy. He called his security advisors, and he saw that, okay, in Cuba, USSR is installing different missiles. And you need to understand that this was nothing new during the period of Cold War. Why? Because USA was no saint. USA at that time had installed many missile centers in the Eastern European side. So USSR was feeling threatened. So what USSR did was they installed their own ballistic missiles in Cuba as well. So as soon as the advisors told this is a very serious situation, US took action. US blockaded Cuba completely. They quarantined Cuba completely. There was nothing to move out, nothing to come inside. Everything was blocked. And US asked USSR to take the missiles out. Now there starts the chicken game, meaning I have taken action, I have gone for blockading, I am telling you to take out those missiles. Initially, both of them are going straight. Means USSR president at that time was Nikita Khrushchev. Now Nikita Khrushchev, he penned a letter to JFK and he said that I am not going to take my missiles back, right? So they were bound on the route of collision. And at one point of time, this was a classic brinkmanship where even a small attack, I would say, one of the pilot from US, he was shot down in Cuban fire as well. So that was the peak. Collision was about to occur. Then both the players, they understood that if this happens, then both of them would be destroyed or both of them would be indulged in a war. So what happened? Back channel diplomacy took place on October 27. Through some back channel diplomacy, back channel dealing, both of them swerved. Now this is a classic chicken game where US called first that we are blockading. USSR said we are not going to take the missiles back. Then tensions at the peak, and at the last moment, both of them changing the direction. Right? Both of them, they're swerving. So it's a safeguarding situation. Saving face in front of media as well. So what happened was, Nikita Khrushchev, he penned a letter later on October 28th that we are announcing removal of missiles. Later on, President JFK also agreed that we have come to a deal, the crisis has ended, and US also removed some of the missiles from Poland and from Eastern European side. It's a classic case of chicken game. I hope you have understood now what happened. Both the parties, they have come at loggerheads, and at the nth moment, they have changed the direction. They said, we have now signed a deal and both of us are taking a step back. All right. So that is a classic case of brinkmanship, taking this matter to the brink and then deciding. We'll see who is going to chicken out first. International actors use this game a lot. Now you're thinking, sir, where is prisoner's dilemma here? I want to understand prisoner's dilemma. Now, the missile buildup and the missile blockade can be understood clearly through chicken game, and I would say both of them chickened out at the same time through some sort of back channel diplomacy or back channel deal, right? But we can understand prisoner's dilemma as well. Why they chickened out? When we understand chicken game and prisoner's dilemma together, why they swerved or why they chickened out? If they hadn't, then there would have been war. The answer to this question, why there was no war, why there was no actual conflict, that is because of the classic case of prisoner dilemma itself. The prisoner's dilemma, it talks about the repercussions of your decision later on. Now imagine if there was no deal and Nikita Khrushchev, he decided not to take his missiles out. US also standing their ground, then there was bound to happen some sort of conflict. Now, if conflict happens, what will happen? Both of them are nuclear powers, or both of them, even today, are nuclear powers. Both of them were nuclear powers. So, some sort of a nuclear catastrophe. First, US attacking, later USSR attacking. Then there is complete mutual destruction. Now, prisoner's dilemma exactly talks about that itself. There, I do not know how the other player is going to behave. But the best case scenario for me is to behave in such a manner that I do not confess. That's the idea, right? Now, the concept here is neither USSR confessed nor USA confessed, right? Means both of them are holding their ground together. If one of the parties, they attack, then the other one is going to suffer. The other one has nuclear weapons, he is also going to retaliate. Then what? Then there is destruction. That means 20 years jail together. The economy of both the countries, 20 years back. That's the idea of prisoner's dilemma. Now, based on these concepts itself in international relations, Robert Jervis had developed his offense-defense theory. Now, this is a concept which is more relevant, I would say, for political science and international relations students, where you will of course read this, but there is a concept of security dilemma. Now, prisoner's dilemma, chicken game can be connected with security dilemma. Now, this security dilemma is an idea because of which we see arms race a lot, because I do not know what the other player is doing. Now, based on that, Robert Jervis, he developed offense-defense matrix. Now, where he said that one can take offensive posture, one can take defensive posture. So one can be offensive, one can be defensive. And if a country's offense or defense is indistinguishable, there creates a huge problem. Along with it, for a country, there is always an option whether offense is advantageous or defense is advantageous. Now you see that sometimes, so for example, for the Chinese in 1962, offense was more advantageous. So what they did was they immediately attacked, and after 1 month, 31 days, they went for unilateral ceasefire. Then they thought, okay, defense is good now because now I have an upper hand. So whenever the offensive posture is not distinguishable from defensive posture and offense is advantageous, it is dangerous situation for everybody, for both the parties. But whenever both the parties are on defensive nature and defense is quite distinguishable, that I understand. Say for example, India and Pakistan. Now both of them are engaged in arms race, right? Both of them are engaged in arms race. India wants to get more and more weapons. India wants more and more nuclear weapons. Pakistan has more nuclear warheads, right? Now, once you know that these are for defensive capabilities, then there would be rather stability. But right now, question is, well, is it offense or defense? Nobody knows, right? That's why we see a continuous arms race. Yes, there is no danger of security initially, but aggression is quite possible in both the cases. Now, that's an idea from political science and international relations. So, game theory has applications in political science and international relations. I hope you are quite clear with this idea of prisoner's dilemma and chicken game, both. But let's end our discussion by understanding this game theory and its applications. I already explained how game theory is quite useful in international relations. But game theory is not something which has only one application. It's a mathematical framework, it's a science-based framework which finds application almost in every field. Almost in every field. You can talk about biology, economics, military strategy, finance, or politics. In politics as well, political parties do this. Now, you can say that one political party has some sort of a smoking gun when it comes to other political party, and other political party has the same thing, right? Say for example, some sort of corruption charges, corruption scandals, etc. On both the sides, you will have some sort of information. When to use it, that's the weapon, right? Apart from that, say in field of securities or finance, say in business, for example, I have a company. Say I'm selling this pen. You have a company, you are also selling this pen. Now we are competing. So I take a decision to reduce the price of this, right? So that I hurt the other player. The other player also decides to reduce the prices. Now, till what time both of them can go? It's a classic case of chicken game. Who will chicken out first? Because it has to be sustainable for both the parties. If the business has to run, this pen has to be produced at one particular price and it has to be sold with some profit margin. Right now, you are looking for loss, or you are going for loss as a temporary measure. But the other party, if they sustain, then it's a loss for both the parties in the long run. The classic idea of game theory in business. So game theory has many applications in many fields and in international relations as well. So prisoner's dilemma is an idea or a concept which can explain many things. India-Pakistan relations, for that matter, right now, what is going on in Israel, you do understand Israel-Hamas war is going on in Gaza. So the hostage situation, classic case of the prisoner dilemma itself, where you do not know right now, will Hamas or what will happen to the hostages, because hostages are a leverage. And if those hostages are gone, Hamas will not have any leverage. So it's a classic case of decision making or decision analysis itself. So it can be employed in different areas. Clear? That is the end of today's discussion. I would like to conclude our discussion with a small message. Study IQ's P2I English batch for November, it's starting from 8th of November. If you're planning, this is the batch 3, you do know. And if you're planning for 2024, 25, 26, whichever year you're planning, if you're in final year, you're a homemaker, if you are aspiring to become IAS, IPS, then this is the course for you, because this is the most comprehensive program where we will be hand-holding you through your prelims, through mains, through your interview phase as well. Validities can be chosen according to your convenience. Just visit our website www.studyiq.com. Go there, enroll, and I'll see you in the class. All right? Do it soon. Thank you for watching this video. Jai Hind.